surprised. Don't be surprised when the Lord calls him into something you never dreamed of. And you're like, no, Lord, not that. Not that. I wanted him to do this. And God says, yes, but I've formed him for this purpose.
Now, Mr. White, just to follow up on the very same question. Now, let's say now that you've done all of these things, you've followed all of these principles. Now, the follow-up question would be, how do you know then that you're on the right track?
Yeah, I have a whole talk on this. You can look up on YouTube if you want to hear the talk called A Safe Choice, Knowing God's Will. It really boils down to the principles that I just gave, doing the work that lies near us. God will not call us to some wide field of responsibility if we are not being faithful in the little things that he's given us. Second of all, committing your ways to God. This means we are obedient to every bit of light that he has shed upon our pathway. And in other words, we're not seeking. In fact, there's a statement from 5 Testimonies, I think. It says, until you have the resolution to obey God's will, you cannot have his guidance. Until you have the resolution to obey God's will, you cannot have his guidance. So this is part of knowing God's will. It's studying his word and being obedient to everything he has revealed. It's when we're obedient to everything he has revealed, then he can shed more light upon our pathway. So it's to know whether or not we're in the right track, it is simply full surrender to God, saying, Lord, I'll be faithful with what you've given me. I seek to be obedient to everything you've shown me. If there's something else, please reveal that to me. And God is faithful to do that. And he uses many ways. This same paragraph talks about his providence. You know, he uses ways to indicate his will to us. But it's important that we take those first 2 steps.
Amen. Now, on the following question, you know what, I fully understand the person who wrote here. You know, these little ones, they have a lot of energy. The question says, always being with children can be tiring at times. How do you handle the burnout as the primary caregiver? How do you handle the burnout?
Yeah, you know, as I mentioned last night, Jesus made that sacrifice, and it was exhausting. It was exhausting. So I think part of it is just embracing the fact, you know what, this is a few years of sacrifice and exhaustion. Just sometimes just recognizing that sort of helps. Also recognizing what I've seen, what I've observed in a lot of burnout is that we're trying to follow the ways of the world and the ways of God. We're trying to do this school-at-home mentality, and that is exhausting. It will burn you out. But in reality, God's principles, like I talked about last night, of the lifestyle of true education are actually very simple. And they contain in them, in terms of spending time outdoors, time in nature, the agriculture time, they contain in them restorative factors that actually help strengthen the mind and keep you going. So when you just embrace the simplicity, we're living life together. Yes, it's exhausting, absolutely. But it makes it a whole lot easier than if you're trying to straddle both sides of the fence and try to have both.
Amen.
Yes, and to add on to this, there are certain things you can do to help lighten the load. You could, instead of doing hand wash laundry, you could have a laundry machine, you could have a dishwasher. It helps lighten the load. And also, don't allow your children to lie idle. And it's very important for them to participate in the chores in the home, sweeping, cleaning, doing the dishes. As they do that, they relieve you as the parent. And also that you take turns with your spouse. When he comes back home, he takes over and he gives you some moment of rest. Planning your home in such a way that you ask yourself questions such as, what takes me the longest to do? What chores are the most tiring? And what can we do to improve their quality? And one thing that's also helpful is even to get, I know sometimes we have helpers at home. These helpers are the ones that take care of the children and we sit still. But what we can do is ask the helpers to take care of the family chores so that we can be with the children and spend more time with them and help them to play their role. I've seen that other parents do that. You know, other homeschooling parents say, okay, I don't have the machinery needed to lighten the load, but what I need, I can use human machinery. So other people can carry the heavier weight of home chores while I focus on spending time with the children, resting, and getting more out of this. And these children will also play their role in home chores. They have times when they cook, they have times when they do this, but it can be tiring as a parent who has 2 children and fully working. I understand. But these are things that you can do to help lighten that particular type of load. Thank you.
Amen. My elder, while you're okay, you can continue.
Yeah, this is such a good point that Brother Laho is making. The Spirit of Prophecy says children should be taught to lighten the burdens of their parents and properly trained. Children really can do this. I have some friends. The mother got very sick. The daughter was, I believe, 8 years old. 8-year-old girl. The mother got very sick. The father still had to be working outside the home. Of course, he tried to be home as much as he could to help take care. But the daughter took over the responsibilities of the home, prepared the meals, packed a meal for her father who was working outside the home, cleaned the home, took care of her sick mother, 8 years of age. Children are capable of this.
Amen. And